Okay, I was saying earlier, as a way of introduction, I see several people who have come for the first time. The name of our group is NUS Bhakti Yoga. We promote holistic well-being among students, but among the larger Singapore community. The rate of advancement of technology in today's world has been very rapid, but the rate of evolution of our consciousness has not kept up with it. So there is a misbalance there. And Yoga 24/7 is a concept that we are starting to study today and for the rest of the semester, which will address this topic. So this topic is very dear to me. I personally learned it when I was a student at MIT, a PhD student at MIT back in Boston. And one of my dear friends is the packager of this material, if you will. He didn't invent it, but he put it in this kind of syllabus form called Yoga 24/7. His name is Dr. Arvind Mohan Ram. I'll send him this video, you'll be happy to see I mentioned his name. Yoga 24/7 comes from wisdom in an ancient Vedic text called the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a philosophical and a spiritual treatise. It's a conversation between two best of friends, Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Lord Krishna plays the role of a guru who is answering the questions of Arjuna. Lord Krishna, of course, is a deity in Vaishnavism. The Bhagavad Gita mainly deals with 5 topics. Kala, which is time, or the nature of time. That's a very interesting topic. It's a separate topic in itself. We'll go into at some point of time. Karma, I'm sure all of you have heard of. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's one way of thinking about karma. Jiva means the living entity or the Atma. Bhagavan, which is the supreme or the infinite, and finally Prakriti, which is material nature. So it kind of deals with the problem of consciousness and how consciousness interacts with material energy, and that's where yoga comes in. So the word yoga really means union. So let's see a quick video on what this word yoga means.
A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. The essence of Lord Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita is that one must become a yogi. What is yoga?
Yoga means union, to reconnect us with our divine source. And interestingly, the Latin word religio, which is the root of the word religion, means the same thing, to bind one back to one's source. It's beyond sectarian concepts, to actually reconnect us with the divinity that is within us. And that becomes our intuition. So yoga is to harmonize the body, the mind with each other. The body and mind are harmonized through asanas, through breath control, pranayam, through dharana, pratyahara, dhyan, meditation. And the idea is real enlightenment is when the body and the mind are harmonized with each other and they are harmonized with the Atma, or with the true spiritual force within us.
So, just to summarize that, yoga means union, literally. The root of the word is yoj, and that means to connect or to unionize. And the monk there, His Holiness Raghunath Swami, he mentioned that the purpose of yoga is to harmonize the body, the mind, and the spirit with the infinite or the supreme. So that is yoga. Then what is yoga 24/7? Yoga is supposed to be performed 24/7, but other than that, in this capsulated form, it's a series of 24 principles and 7 practices that we'll go through hopefully over the next 31 weeks, which promotes well-being, holistic well-being from every aspect for every individual and for society. The 24 principles are axiomatic and sort of encoded in us, encoded in our consciousness, encoded in our DNA even. And when we become aware of these principles, it comes out in 7 regular practices. So we'll go through, I don't want to take you through all the 24 principles today. That's supposed to be done one at a time or a weekly basis. Today we will talk about self-care, which is a very important aspect of being a yogi, of yoga. Then we'll talk about sacrifice, especially the balance between self-care and sacrifice, absolute truth, form and substance. It's very, very interesting topics. I have not even attended my academic classes every week. I generally have poor attendance, but this I attended throughout when I took this course. So it's very powerful, very, very interesting. So stay with me. 7 practices. We'll practice one of those today, which is the meditation on pure sound at the end of today's lecture. So self-care. So before we get into self-care, we have to understand what the self is. And this is not a new question. The question, who am I, is as old as this universe. As soon as there was a living being with awareness and cognitive abilities, there has been this question, who am I, where did I come from, and so on. And it's not necessarily exclusive to Eastern thought. So Western thought, including the Greeks, they have been thinking about who I am. All of us have heard of Descartes, who said, I think, so I am. So there is a tradition of this epistemological thinking both in Eastern and Western traditions. So quick video, a TED video, which kind of gets us started in thinking.
Throughout the history of mankind, 3 little words have sent poets to the blank page, philosophers to the agora, and seekers to the oracles. Who am I? From the ancient Greek aphorism inscribed on the Temple of Apollo, know thyself, to the Who's rock anthem, Who Are You? Philosophers, psychologists, academics, scientists, artists, theologians, and politicians have all tackled the subject of identity. Their hypotheses are widely varied and lack significant consensus. These are smart, creative people. So what's so hard about coming up with the right answer? One challenge certainly lies with the complex concept of the persistence of identity. Which you is who? The person you are today, 5 years ago, who you'll be in 50 years, and when is am? This week, today, this hour, this second? And which aspect of you is I? Are you your physical body, your thoughts and feelings, your actions? These murky waters of abstract logic are tricky to navigate, and so it's probably fitting that to demonstrate the complexity, the Greek historian Plutarch used the story of a ship. How are you I? As the tale goes, Theseus, the mythical founder king of Athens, single-handedly slayed the evil Minotaur at Crete, then returned home on a ship. To honor this heroic feat, for 1,000 years Athenians painstakingly maintained his ship in the harbor, and annually reenacted his voyage. Whenever a part of the ship was worn or damaged, it was replaced with an identical piece of the same material, until at some point, no original parts remained. Plutarch noted the ship of Theseus was an example of the philosophical paradox revolving around the persistence of identity. How can every single part of something be replaced, yet it still remains the same thing? Let's imagine there are two ships. The ship that Theseus docked in Athens, Ship A, and the ship sailed by the Athenians 1,000 years later, Ship B. Very simply, our question is this: does A equal B? Some would say that for 1,000 years there has been only one ship of Theseus, and because the changes made to it happened gradually, it never at any point in time stopped being the legendary ship. Though they have absolutely no parts in common, the two ships are numerically identical, meaning one and the same, so A equals B. However, others could argue that Theseus never set foot on Ship B, and his presence on the ship is an essential qualitative property of the ship of Theseus. It cannot survive without him. So, though the two ships are numerically identical, they are not qualitatively identical. Thus, A does not equal B. But what happens when we consider this twist? What if, as each piece of the original ship was cast off, somebody collected them all and rebuilt the entire original ship? When it was finished, undeniably, two physical ships would exist, the one that's docked in Athens and the one in some guy's backyard. Each could lay claim to the title, the Ship of Theseus, but only one could actually be the real thing. So which one is it? And more importantly, what does this have to do with you? Like the ship of Theseus, you are a collection of constantly changing parts. Your physical body, mind, emotions, circumstances, and even your quirks, always changing, but still, in an amazing and sometimes illogical way, you stay the same too. This is one of the reasons that the question, who am I, is so complex. And in order to answer it, like so many great minds before you, you must be willing to dive into the bottomless ocean of philosophical paradox. Or maybe you could just answer, I'm a legendary hero sailing a powerful ship on an epic journey. That could work too.
Audio was okay. But basically, that ship that got maintained over a period of 1,000 years. Whenever something broke, they kept replacing the parts to keep it running. Every year they would take the ship in honor of Theseus' victory, and they'll take it out to the sea, bring it back, dock it for a year, and something will break, they will replace it. Just like our human body, right? Over a period of time. Some say it's 7 years, and that's debatable, that's probably just popular science. Over a period of 7 years, every single cell in our body is replaced. So, say today, 2019, this is Prakash, and 2026, if every single cell is replaced, that's no longer me, right? So that's the paradox that they are talking about. To put it in a nutshell, the I, or the self that we are trying to define, is it ever changing? Is it continuously and gradually changing? Or is it unchanging? This is a question that has perplexed human beings forever. It's a very, very deep topic, perhaps too deep for a Friday evening. But nonetheless, so the Bhagavad Gita model is the picture on the left, for example. So when we are born, we are in the body of a baby, right? And then as we grow, for a male, you attain boyhood and then youth and then middle age and old age and then you die. But there is something in us that is unchanging. So the Bhagavad Gita calls that unchanging the indestructible, the Atma, or the soul. Any of you want to read this verse for me?
Avinashi tu tad viddhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya na kaschit kartum arhati. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul.
So that kind of gets at the problem that the Greeks had. Is the body ever changing, or is that unchanging, undestroyable, and eternal? So the Vedic model is the body is ever changing. The body is, the cells are replaced, except I think the brain cells are not actually replaced, they're refreshed. It's called plastic, I forget, irrelevant to the topic. But the soul, which is an eternal spark, is the real I, which goes from that body of the baby to what we are today. So that is why we retain our identity. To expand upon that thought a little bit, and stop me wherever you want if you have any questions or thoughts. So basically there are five broad elements of nature, which is earth, water, fire, air and ether. These combine to form the gross body, and the gross body has predominantly five senses. There are sub-senses like modern science will tell you, and also the Vedas will tell you. So that is, smell, taste, form, touch and sound or hearing. So this encapsulates, this level encapsulates the human body or the body of a living entity. Then we have the mind, which, side note, is different from the brain. So the brain is made up of the five elements of nature. The mind is kind of the software to the brain, that is the hardware. The brain is then controlled by intelligence, and when the intelligence identifies itself with the body, there is a false ego. But above all this, there is that eternal spark which is me, which goes from the body of a baby to boyhood to youth to old age. So that is Atma. And then there is the super soul or the infinite, which travels everywhere the soul travels. I'll get into that a little bit later. Kind of put these in boxes. So there is the gross body made out of gross material elements, the five elements. There is the subtle body, which is mind, intelligence, false ego. And then there is the spiritual body. In Sanskrit, which is the language of the Bhagavad Gita, there is Karana, which roughly translated literally is cause. Antakarana, which is inner cause or inner vision, and Atma. So the outer layer forms the outer vision. Whatever we experience externally is the outer layer. Whatever we experience internally, emotions, things like happiness, sadness, that is inner vision, that is part of the subtle body. And then who experiences these? Right? There is actually a seer. The body has sensors, but there is the PLC, if you will, which is the seer, something that records these and is able to experience these, and that is the outcome. When we identify with our senses, we have sensual pleasure. Just to illustrate further, when we identify with the mind, we have mental pleasure. When we identify with the intelligence, we have intellectual pleasure. And when we identify with the false ego, we have egoistic pleasure. The quality of the experience influenced by the gross body is external experience. The quality of the experience influenced by the subtle body is internal experience. And very importantly, you can think of this as the acquired I and the natural I. So the acquired I is the Atma or the soul, and that's the natural I. The acquired I is the gross body and the subtle body. So when we talk about self-care, we have defined the self. Self-care is caring for both the acquired I and the natural I. It's as simple as that. It's taking care of one's own self as the first priority, and taking care of the spiritual, intellectual, mental and physical needs of the self. So holistic well-being very much includes and begins with self-care. So for those who travel often, and I do, there is this example of, when you are boarding a flight, they make this safety announcements. And one of the things they say is put on your own oxygen mask. In the case of emergency, the cabin might be slightly depressurized and you get an oxygen mask. And you put the oxygen mask first for yourself before you put it on for your baby or somebody else. So that's what self-care is all about. So since this has been one-way communication so far, let's have a interactive exercise. Let's have a discussion on needs versus wants. So this slide specifically comes from my own experience. So when I first took this series of lectures, the question that came to my mind that I asked the lecturer was, this sounds like selfishness, right? I want to take care of myself, sounds like selfishness. So is there a difference between selfishness and self-care? And if so, what is that? So that's where needs versus wants comes up. So all of us know what needs are, all of us know wants are, so what wants are. So can some of you give me an example of a need that you have? The physical need, food, yeah, sure.
Water.
Shelter. Water, okay. So those are all physical needs. What about mental or emotional needs? What kind of emotional needs do you think you have?
Belongingness.
Sure.
Relationship.
Fulfillment.
Related, very good examples both.
Fulfillment.
Fulfillment is
Satisfaction.
absolutely all great examples. And more than that, do we have intellectual needs? Do you think each of us have a need which is intellectual or several needs which are intellectual? If so, can you give me an example?
Peace.
Sure. I don't know for sure whether peace is intellectual or emotional, but it's somewhere in between. We don't have to worry about the classification.
Knowledge.
Knowledge, I think.
Knowledge, yeah, definitely. So I talked about the Atma. Let me say one more thing about the Atma, right? So the Sanskrit texts, they say, including the Bhagavad Gita, the Atma is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means eternal, Chit means full of knowledge, and Ananda means full of bliss. So definitely knowledge is a very important intellectual need, but it's also a spiritual need. What about love? Is that a need?
Yes.
And where does that fall? Sure, some people can say physical. Okay, there's that love.
Emotion.
Intellectual, emotional. But do you think it is also a spiritual need? Sure. Why? Do you know why it's a spiritual need? Because it's inherent to our nature. Like I said, we are Sat, Chit and Ananda, we are eternal, full of bliss and full of happiness, full of knowledge and full of happiness, and happiness and love is inherent to our nature. So extending on that thought, so eternality is also default in our nature. This is why when we get ephemeral happiness, we are dissatisfied. This is why when we are constantly in the mode of duality in this universe, where happiness alternates with sadness and cold alternates with heat. That's why this world is not our natural place, because we are eternal beings. What we call I, like I said before, that eternal spark that goes from body to body, and within this body, from when we are born, from young age to youth to old age, it travels. The identity that we keep, that is eternal, and that is who we are. So as long as we do not seek and experience eternal things, eternal happiness, eternal love, our needs are not fully met. So we are not fully taken care of. Can some of you venture guess examples of wants?
Degrees, jobs.
Well, some people would say a job is a need sometimes.
Car. Luxurious car.
Luxurious.
Yeah. Sometimes joblessness is a need also.
But people like it.
else? Luxuriousness, what do you mean by that?
Materialistic needs.
BMW.
I believe if we have a house, we'll be in a better situation.
Is that a materialistic need, or is it's just a want, right? So let's say need is something you require. You have to have it. Like if you don't have water for I think 11 days or something like that, unless you are some kind of a mystic yogi, body is gonna suffer. Cells are gonna die at a much faster rate, and you're not going to be able to survive. So water is a definite physical need. So are material things needs? For example, okay.
Clothes.
So material things are needs to the extent that they keep the Atma within the body.
I think many similar things which are needed is over, like water is a need, but Coca-Cola may not be a need. Food is a need, but luxurious food in a but no expensive restaurant, that's just a market.
Right. So what is selfishness then? I think pretty much you guys have defined it for me. Anyone wants to venture a guess what is selfishness?
Oh, I only want to succeed in life.
Want. Yeah, exactly. You used
Want.
the right word there. So when you put your wants over others' needs, that is selfishness. Whereas self-care is saying the first and foremost thing is for me to wear my oxygen mask, which is for me to take care of my needs. Okay, so that's all, philosophy and theory. We learned about what is yoga, which is a union which creates harmony between the body, mind, spirit, and the infinite. Right? And then we learned about this principle of the self, the definition of how there are 3 levels of the self, which is the gross body, the subtle body, and the Atma. So that's all good, right? It's all theoretical, but let's take away something practical from today's introductory lecture in Yoga 21st. So let's do another exercise. You can write down or just mentally make a note. One daily practice that you would do for self-care for the gross body, which is the outer covering, the subtle body, and for those of you who came late, that is the mind, intelligent, and false ego, and the soul, which is the spiritual, which is the real I. Can each of you take a minute maybe and think about what is a practice that you don't currently do to take care of each of these 3 aspects of you that you want to incorporate in your daily life that will enhance your health. If you can think of any, you can.
I do meditation 20 minutes morning and evening.
Okay. Any change you want to make to that, more or less?
I want to practice it.
Okay. What about for the subtle body and gross? The gross body is easy, right? I venture. I don't exercise much. I would like to exercise 15 minutes a day. My mother doesn't believe. I'm one of those people who finds it very difficult to exercise, but is very eager to meditate. Anything else from bodily perspective? Anybody wants to make a pledge of doing yoga regularly? No, it need not be daily. It can be weekly.
I want to, but I'm not doing it.
Why not?
I just wake up and go to office.
See, that is what I was talking about when we started the talk, right? We are kind of on a conveyor belt. I mean, it's called a rat race for a reason. You just get up, you have to get to office, you have to get your KPIs at work. It's not just you, right? It's me, it's everyone who is here. But the whole point of these sessions, the whole point of getting together, creating a community, is to help each other, remind each other to once in a while, on a regular basis, step out of that conveyor belt. Look at life from a different perspective. Practice something that moves us closer and closer to reality, farther and farther away from the duality. Okay, anything for the subtle body? Anybody wants to make a daily or a weekly practice pledge? Otherwise,
Traveling leaves
okay.
peace of mind.
Anywhere specifically you want to travel?
Moods or emotions.
Okay, nature. You want to spend more time in nature.
Reading articles
Reading
from
books.
Personality development.
I think both of you said that at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Self-help.
I think it can fall in both gross and subtle categories. It would be enjoying the meal at peace. Like awesome, like we are running on a call, watching a TV. We do not appreciate, which is a major need for the body to survive, food. We don't appreciate, food can be meditation. We should eat and concentrate on the every bite we take.
I love that example. That's something I can do too.
That's something which I really want to do because I just miss it. Like I'm eating every morning breakfast. So it seems that I'm having a very healthy breakfast, but I'm just skipping, running over it through some calls or, waiting for a cab.
I say we can do it, but it's not easy. Even a couple of days ago, I remember I was having breakfast, and I ate the whole breakfast standing up because I already called my cab to go to office. I was running late. There's a word these days in modern parlance for that. It's called mindful eating.
Mindful eating, yes.
Yes, yoga is 24/7. You can be mindful throughout the day for anything. The experience of everything is enhanced if you are mindful. Like we did at the beginning of the lecture, there were only a few people. We were waiting for the others, and we did this very simple mindful breathing exercise, just observing our breath. Breathing is an involuntary activity, but it is fundamental to existence in this planet. Right? If we stop breathing, we die. So, once in a while, when you are having a hectic day, and if you are anything like me, made a to-do list and try to check off as many items on the list before you get home, try to stop and observe your breath if you can't do anything else. Or when you are walking, walk mindfully, each step, one step at a time. It's very, very easy to say, very difficult to do, but we can all try. Anybody else wants to say anything on that they would like to try as a daily practice of self-care? Okay. Daily
for last 8-9 years.
Pranayama, for those who don't know, it's can I classify it as a breathing exercise?
It's a breathing exercise which also controls your emotions over a period of time. And you've got positive organic changes in the body and the mind.
So it's both for the gross and the subtle.
There are different types of pranayamas, and we practice something like 7 or 8 different pranayamas.
By the way, that's my father. He is visiting from India. Maybe you can teach us pranayama next week.
Maybe also, probably.
Actually, we got trained under the Patanjali group. You might have heard of.
I have some Patanjali Yoga Sutras because my father is here.
They started a unit in our
Coming attractions.
flats in Chennai. And we started going talk without minding all the hours and everything. They started at 5 in the morning. So we had to get up at least at 4:15, 4:30 to be ready for that. And we had to be very systematic. They were very insistent that we do it.
But do you think we can do it in other times of the day also?
It can be done, but at least a 4-hour gap
After meal.
after any meal.
Okay.
Like for example, if you are having a lunch at 12:30, do it after 4 minutes.
And how has it helped you?
It's helps you, it's absolutely fit, keeps you fit, mind and body. And the mind part of it requires a little bit of additional care, like you mentioned.
Meditation.
Yeah,
So what Ganesh said earlier. So we've gone, you wanted to add something, right?
So I was thinking maybe a bit of taking my time out before sleeping rather than sleeping to Gmails, calendars, next tasks. No, like a gadget-free hour before sleeping. Yeah, that's true.
I would love that.
On Netflix. Sleeping to
That's like more mobile, something is ringing, iPad.
Yeah.
Like I at least try to read, and I never read on a gadget, like a book. But yes, still like something tickles and the mind is there, and then essentially, like at least an hour gap of electronics.
So this is not a yoga tip per se, but one thing about the iPhone, it has an app. What's it called?
Monitor your sleep?
No, it's like
No, it's screen time.
Screen time.
Yeah, I find it extremely useful. What you can do is if you really want to force yourself to enforce this, you can set a maximum screen time for you in a day, or you can even customize it. You can set maximum screen time for your WhatsApp or something. It will automatically go into some kind of a off mode, hibernation mode after.
You can group your activities on the screen.
I did that for a month.
Wow.
How much time do you limit yourself per day?
Over a month I started with 5 hours. Then I went to second week I went to 4, 3, 2. I couldn't go below 2.
even in the 2
I
he
run a
kept
business, FYI, so I get calls from different people in different time zones.
That was my question. What do you do otherwise?
Yeah. So there were a few upset people because I use screen time.
But the important thing is if you practice pranayama and meditation, take care of your soul and body, and ultimately your peak performance will come out even in whatever you do.
Right.
When those are rested. I realized that it's not to take you away from the breathing and make you the yogi. It is what actually it gives you the power to perform whatever you are doing.
Right.
In a much better way.
So the way I define yogi is it's not necessarily someone who is an aesthetic. Like that verse. So we saw that verse at the beginning in the video. I don't know how many of you were here for that. Maybe I should play it again. Chapter 6, verse 46 in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna, a yogi is better than an aesthetic. A yogi is better than a fruit worker, which is a karma yogi. And then in the next verse, he defines who a yogi is. A yogi is someone who is in the path of yoga. And again, going back to the second video, yoga means to connect. And that means that connection is to harmonize the body, mind and spirit. That's who a yogi is. Somebody could be working in Wall Street or downtown here in Singapore in, I don't know, Deutsche Bank or one of those banks in the high-rise floor, and they can still be a yogi. You don't have to go live in the forest, get a tiger skin. That's what they say. Sit down there.
Get the saffron clothes on.
Yeah, you don't need any of that. So thank you for sharing. So we'll go through 3 things that Patanjali said to help us aid with all the different daily practices of self-care that we identified, ranging from meditation that Ganesh mentioned, to pranayama that my father mentioned, to several other wonderful things that all of you shared, including mindful eating. So to all of these, you can to all of these sadhanas or abhayas, you can apply these yoga sutras. The first one is Dirgha Kala, which is a prolonged period of time. So whichever daily practice or regular practice, it doesn't have to be daily like I said, It can be once in 2 days, twice in a day, whatever works for you. Do it for a prolonged period of time. And we'll stick with this example of meditation today because that's what we do at NUS Bhakti Yoga. We meditate. But you can apply it to other self-care activities that you choose to do, practices that you choose to do. So meditate for at least 15 minutes in a day. And then the second concept, you can probably guess what it is. But Nairantarya, which is uninterruptedly or consistent. Consistency is the key to for the practice to have its full potency. So if you meditate for 15 to 20 minutes in a day, do it every day for a week. See how you feel, and then try to increase it. Akshaya has been coming since the last semester. We did this the last semester, if you remember, where we had this group pledge, if you will, a group of people. We pledged that we will meditate for a period of at least 15 minutes every day for a week. And some of us did that. And some of us started getting up early. Akshaya started getting up early and meditate.
Can you do in the evening just before you sleep?
Yeah, anytime is okay. Anytime is okay. But if it is possible, there is an optimum.
There's an optimum.
Yeah. So, entropically speaking, there are various times in the day. There is early morning, then there is after sunrise, then there is late morning and afternoons, then there is early evening and then late evening. Each of these times in a day are in a different mode of nature. So the Vedic texts, including the Bhagavad Gita, divide modes of nature into goodness, passion, and darkness or ignorance. Goodness occurs in nature slightly before sunrise and it extends into after sunrise, that period. Specifically for meditation, 1 hour 36 minutes before sunrise, we want to be really precise. There is a time that is called out in Sanskrit text called Brahma Muhurta. So any yogi, there are many famous yogis these days. If you Google them, YouTube them, they will talk about 3:30 a.m. being a special time, right? So that is Brahma Muhurta. Then as you go later in the day, it becomes passion. So that is an ideal time to do your fruitive work. So if you are, I don't know what your profession is, sir, but I am in business, so I like to go into office, do my work at that time. That's ideal for that. Then late evenings are ideal for resting and so on, because it's modes of darkness after sunset and so on. This doesn't mean that if we cannot get up early, we do not meditate. This is just the optimum, but always if you can only meditate in the evening, you should meditate in the evening. If you make it consistent, like we said, and for a prolonged period of time, it will naturally happen. To be very honest with you, I don't always meditate during Brahma Muhurta. It's not possible for me. So sometimes I meditate after work. I meditate sometimes in the MRT. When everybody in the MRT, it's interesting experiment to perform on other people if you're interested in social experiments. Just see around you when you're in the MRT. Not during a stop or something when people are more aware, but between stops when the MRT is moving. Just see around you how many people are looking at their cell phones. 99% I swear. I wish I could, this would violate other people's privacy, so I won't do it. But I wish I could record it into some form of a formal experiment and publish it. 99% of the people are looking at the cell phone. You can use that time to be mindful, to meditate.
See, one of the reasons for the rise in all these problems like depression.
Yes.
Depression, mental depression.
Yes.
All due to that, because you become totally one-minded, one-sided.
Right.
You're not doing activities which are
right. So depression is a very interesting topic. So for those of you who came last semester, we had a talk on overcoming depression, right? And it's very. I don't want to get into it in detail now, but to put it in a nutshell, like I said before, we are all that eternal spark of energy, that identity that is moving from body to body on a continuous basis. We are not this body. And like I said before, by nature, that spark of energy, that Atma, is full of bliss, full of knowledge, and is eternal. The reason we are experiencing depression is we are not identifying ourselves as that. If we realize and we identify ourselves as that, we are full of bliss. There is no way we can be depressed. This world, which is full of duality, which is hot and cold, sad and happy, is ideal to get depressed. Especially in the modern world where technology has taken over our lives. This is where mindfulness and meditation becomes very important. The third sutra is faith. So whatever it is, even if it is your daily practice is for self-care of your body, and you have decided to do Hatha Yoga, just downward dog or upward dog or whatever people do, for 15 minutes if you choose to, have faith that it will work. And do it with full reverence. Fully experience it, be mindful and do it. And obviously when it applies to something as mundane as exercise, it obviously applies to something as subtle as meditation also. So have faith in what you're doing. So 3 Yoga Sutras we went through today. Do it for so first of all, pick a daily practice. Be it actually pick each one. Pick a daily practice for self-care of your body. Pick a daily practice for self-care of your mental, emotional, subtle body. And pick a practice for self-care of your spiritual body. The focus should be on the spiritual self-care, but also pick one for each, because we have to be holistic in our approach to being well. Second, try to do these very, very simple 3 things. Right? Do it for a prolonged period of time. I don't mean 12 hours in a day. I mean at least some 15 minutes in a day, some meaningful prolonged period of time. 2, do it consistently every day or every regular period, depending on what the practice is. Maybe doing exercise every day is not possible, or even in some cases advisable. So pick a regular period which makes sense. And 3, do it with complete reverence and faith. If this doesn't make a difference in your life, then please come back to me and say you are an idiot. I will accept it. Okay, this is a monk I really like and look up to. He will introduce this meditation we have been doing every week at NUS Yoga for the last whole semester. We actually looked into various forms of meditation. Silent meditation, meditation on a mandala or a geometric shape, meditation on a candlelight, and then we finally came to meditation on pure sound vibration. So instead of me introducing it, he is going to introduce this. Oh, sorry, the audio is on.
Ever try meditation or chanting mantras? Let's give it a try. Meditation is a means to control the mind and to purify the self by fixing it on one thing. The best thing to meditate on is mantra. This combination of mystical words have a natural power to evoke spiritual potency and spiritual emotions. For 50 years I've been chanting this mantra. Just listen to it once. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Like to try? Why don't you repeat these couplets out? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That was great. You're an expert. Why don't you do an experiment? Chant the mantra in the solitude of morning hours for 10 minutes a day. See the result. Make a vow to do it for a week. It will fix your mind, purify your being, and change your consciousness. Try it and see.
we end our short introduction to Yoga 24/7. Today's topic was self-care. We saw what is yoga, what are the topics we are going to see in Yoga 24/7. We saw what is the self. So the self or I, this question has been around forever, and according to Vedic texts, according to the Bhagavad Gita, the self is unchanging and undestroyable. It's called the Atma. It has two bodies around it. One is the subtle body, which is the mind, intelligence and false ego. Second is the gross body, which is the body that has the 5 primary senses that we all know about. And that's made from 5 elements of nature. So then we saw some very simple kindergarten level tips on how to develop a practice. And all of you shared very wonderful daily practices that I assume you have now taken a vow to do at least for a week, ranging from daily meditation to pranayama to other things like exercise, yoga, hatha yoga, and mindful eating and mindful activities. So to end the lecture, we always end the lecture with a round of group meditation. So let's set ourselves. We'll do a very quick alignment exercise. Yes, you can pause the beats. So to aid with the meditation, we have these beats. You can count the number of times you meditate. These are free. If you want to, you can take them home if you're going to practice the meditation. If not, you can return it and we'll give it to other people. Yeah, we'll buy a few more.
Oh, okay.
It's good that we are running out of the beats. That means people are taking them. Let's make sure whoever has come for the first time has beats. If people who have used before can sacrifice for the people who come newly, that will be. It doesn't violate self. All right. So alignment really aids meditation. So we'll just do a quick alignment exercise, and we'll start the meditation. We'll do it for what's the time roughly right now?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. So we'll do it for 15 minutes, and then we have a wonderful dinner prepared where we can practice mindful eating. So alignment has 3 levels. Please sit relatively erect as possible, but please be comfortable. Don't strain yourself. Make sure both your feet are firmly on the ground. So alignment of the body is the grossest level of alignment. The alignment of the heart is the subtlest, and in between we have alignment of the mind. So these are some very quick tips to align your body, mind and heart before you start meditating. There are 3 P's to alignment of the body. Posture, which I already told you, proper time, which we discussed, and pronunciation. Since we are performing mantra meditation, let us practice the pronunciation one time. Again, this is not sacrosanct. You have to pronounce as best as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. I have several friends who are native Mandarin speakers who cannot pronounce the word R along with certain other, in combination with certain other letters, and that is perfectly okay. So just pronounce as best as you can. I'll say one word at a time, and please repeat after me. Hare,
Hare,
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare,
Krishna,
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 Hare,
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 Rama,
Rama,
Hare,
Hare,
Rama,
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 Hare,
Hare,
Hare.
Hare.
So that is the entire mantra, the Maha Mantra. So next is the alignment of the mind. So a couple of tips for the alignment of the mind. One tip that has helped me personally greatly is setting an intention. So within yourself, if you want to, and I encourage you to, please set an intention for this meditation practice for yourself for the next 15 minutes. Just take 30 seconds to set this intention. My intention is, I don't want to engage with my thoughts. I want to meditate on the sound vibration. Even if I have thoughts, I don't want to engage with them. I want to focus and meditate with feeling. So that is a trick that can help us with the alignment of the mind. I really like this mind management sutra, which goes where attention goes in, where intention goes, attention flows, and where attention goes, energy flows, and where energy flows, perfection manifests. So now that we have set the intention, the attention is there, that means the energy is going to flow, and it is very important that when the energy is flowing, we are not attached. So we have several attachments. So this is the second mind management trick, which is we are this body, we are a husband, we are a boyfriend, we are a girlfriend, we are a son, we are a daughter, we are rich, we are poor, and so on and so forth. Actually, we are none of those. We are an eternal spark of energy which is full of bliss, full of knowledge. And let us not attach ourselves to those upadhis or those designations. Let us chant one time together here as a practice, consciously being detached and just focusing on the sound vibration. So together, let's chant one time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So finally, the alignment of the heart. This is the most abstract, so it is very difficult to explain in words or realize theoretically. This is something that should be experienced. So these words, Hare, Krishna and Rama, are not mundane sound vibrations. They are sound vibrations that transcend the dual, that transcend the material, and they are pure spiritual sound vibrations. The reason we chant this Maha Mantra is that we want to realize that we are that spark, that Atma, which is the full of bliss, full of happiness, and we want to connect with the non-dual, with the absolute realm. And Hare embodies the energy of the infinite, the energy of the cosmos. And Krishna and Rama are names of the infinite. Krishna means all attractive, and Rama means pleasure giving, all pleasure giving. So we, with that faith, with that reverence, let us chant, let us align our heart and let us chant one time together without being attached, with the intention we set, and in a good posture, aligning our body with full feeling in the heart. Let's chant one time together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama So for the next 15 minutes, I will not say anything. We will all chant together. One quick note: when you chant, make sure you chant loud enough for you to hear it. So there is a loop created between your chanting and hearing. But don't chant loud enough to disturb the person next to you. So together, let us all chant together now, starting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,